All right, it's 4 o'clock, to the point, and I've begun the recording. Today we're going to discuss about Caldera. It's an amazing tool used by red teamers and hated by blue teamers because it does the job really well. Um, but it's essentially a tool for post exploitation, and red teamers use this inside the enterprise to test out control systems if they are set up correctly, and to see if certain things are picked up, which they're supposed to be, through the automated software. Caldera is made by the folks at MITRE. They brought you the MITRE attack framework. It's pretty awesome. We're going to touch base everything from installing all the way from using from basic steps. Due to the YouTube policies of displaying hacking content on YouTube, I am kind of restricted on what I can show you, but I can talk to you about it and walk you through the process of how to set everything up as well as executing it. So without further ado, let me introduce myself. My name is Shubham and I am a hacker and I make YouTube videos, make fun of awesome stuff, and play with things. And I am a gamer, I'm a fisherman, and I like to get involved in cybersecurity as much as possible. On top of all that, I love to help everyone who comes across my way, in getting to where they want to be. If they can help me and get to know where I want to be, that's all the more better. But my job is to give and provide. So that's what I'm providing today. It's an awesome tool, which you should know about it. Definitely is gonna be an interview question if you know everything about this, and it will really look great on your resume. So without further ado, let's jump in. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up Caldera over here. There we go. That's the GitHub repo of Caldera, and it has everything in it. There's not much required, but the only problem is that it's all over the place in the documentation process. As you can see over here, I pulled up the documentation. The link is over here, right over here on the documentation on the GitHub repo for the documentation. So just pull up the documentation. It's step by step. But if you're new to all this, this might look intimidating as to why everything is set up like this. What are agents, what are adversaries, what is an operation, and it sometimes gets hard to understand. But that's my job, to make things easier, so I'm gonna try my best to make things easier as well. If you have any questions, feel free to text it on the chat box. Introduce yourself if you're new. If you don't know what I do, just stay on the channel and you'll get to know what I do. So if you have a laptop ready or everything ready, just pull this repo up, and you can install this on any any Linux distro, any Mac OS or Windows distro. It really doesn't care for anything else. There is a requirement.txt file which will install the automated process for installations and all the updates which is required. I have the older version of Caldera installed on my system, and I'm gonna work out of that as well. But the new one has Pathfinder, a scanner, which is basically Nessus slash Nmap scanner in one. Will do its thing of scanning the entire system for ports and vulnerabilities, but that's just an additional plugin, which is not included, but you can include it. Um, that being said, you can just go ahead and GitHub clone this. I have done this before. I did it without this recursive tac recursive branch, which kind of caused issues with the installation. So don't just do a git clone, do it with a recursive branch 3.0.00, which you can easily find it on their releases. I don't know where they're, latest release is 3.0.0. So on February 17th. That's cool. So that will download the latest repo. Do the pip3 install. If you don't have pip or Python 3, just try to install that first. If you don't do that, your Linux distro will give you an error message like, hey, do a sudo install Python 3 or however, whatever the code is for installation. And you just install that. Make sure you have attack R for requirements. And once this is set up, all you have to do is just type Python 3 server.py -tac insecure. That will set up the entire server on the cloud, and then you can use the web console to access it. Um, Before we go into jumping and installing everything, I want to tell you a little bit about what Caldera is. It's what C2 is. C2 stands for command and control. Basically, whenever an attacker, in our case, an attacker is inside the system, they usually follow the routes of MITRE framework. If they don't, that's something new, and MITRE will add that on their framework as well. So you have MITRE framework over here. Attack matrix. I'll show you what exactly it does. So it'll go all the way from reconnaissance to an actual impact. The impact is pretty brand new. Exfiltration is what it had earlier. Well, reconnaissance to impact is the entire kill chain process. That's what I call a kill chain. And it includes everything which an attacker has done ever since the history of actual attacks on computer system. And MITRE has made a compilation of all these attacks and discoveries into one matrix. You can do it this way, show sub techniques. Yeah, this will break down each and every single one of them. Let's say that they go through a phishing attack, pretty common in 2020, 2021. People love phishing. People love to click on links. They go through a phishing information, and then they jump into resource development. They figure out that, okay, yeah, what do we need to know about this environment? It's a Windows environment. Let's ditch all our Linux systems and only work on some rootkits that will fix the issues. We have botnets over here. And then they jump into initial access. It could be anything from drive-by compromise to an actual phishing engagement. Spear phishing attacks are pretty common. Once they do this, there's supply chain compromise as well over here, and trusted relationship. I think that was in, I don't know where it was, but I think it was in the Windows Exchange hack. It just recently happened, but I'm not sure. Got to double check on that. And then goes to execution, persistence, privilege escalation, defense evasion, credential access, discovery, lateral movement, collection, and then command and control. So this is basically what the kill chain looks like. If you reach through command and control, basically you want an agent installed on your victim's computer, and then you are accessing it through a persistent network connection. And you run basic commands. These are high level commands, not really basic, but once they are ran, it scans the entire system for issues, as well as vulnerable files, keychains, or anything like that, and then it drops it into your inbox, and then you can just access those. It's like, okay, yeah, we have etc pass wd directory open. We have root access, so let's just go ahead and download those. We have mail servers, we can access emails. Let's just download those emails on our system. We can encrypt files through what have your malware, and then ask for ransom. That's just ransomware there for you. We can do that as well with this user's access, not that one. So those are things which command and control does in a nutshell. And it's super important that you know what command and control is in a framework, because if you know this, you easily know where the attacker might be looking for. And to simulate all these things without an actual attack on your systems and your enterprise, you use something called Caldera. Caldera was built by MITRE folks in MITRE, and then it does the exact same things, but much more on a controlled environment. So you can be rest assured that your blue team folks are working with you and making sure that everything is working fine. The controls have been activated the way it should be. So if next time someone comes in over there, they will be spooked, and they wouldn't know that they have been in the system, but the blue team and the red team will know surely that there has been an intrusion into a system. Caldera, make sure that whenever you're working on Caldera, you are the full advantage of Caldera is best if you do it with a blue team environment. And I'm gonna make entire session on red and blue team engagement side by side, so that you get to know that, okay, yeah, whenever a blue team is expecting some things, there is certain controls which needs to be in place, like log analysis. There are certain SIMs which needs to be in place, and IDS needs to be set up, their firewall needs to be set up. And the moment Caldera is running from an attacker perspective, what things are triggered. I'm going to do that into one of my courses I'm trying to build, and how to do this in an actual enterprise environment. I'm not backed by anyone, so I'm doing this by myself. So it will just take some time. But this is just a preview of the red team side I'm showing you. The blue team side will come way later in an actual course, which will be paid, but not too much expensive. So I try to make it as cheap as possible. But that being said, let's just jump into installing Caldera. You already know this is the installation, the 4 commands. Just try to do that into your Linux machine or Windows or Mac, doesn't really matter. I have done it in my Ubuntu system, um, which I borrowed from BHIS because it has already a lot of tools inbuilt into it. I'm going to show you an actual attack which I performed just before this video to give you a brief overview of what you're supposed to be expecting. And I like to teach in this manner. I like to provide the actual thing beforehand, and once this has been done, I like to break it down into how I achieved it. That way you know what the big picture should be looking like and not just making the pieces up as you move forward. So this is the localhost.8888. That's the port. Make sure that you're on 8888 because it doesn't work on anything else except that. What I'm looking over here is agents. Agents are basically installed on your victim machine. This is installed on my actual Linux machine. This is ADHD, that's the name of the host. The point of contact is to HTTP. It could be anything from HTTPS. It could be from SSH, anything which you want. I'll show you how to do that as well. The PID is basically the process ID. That's the process ID over there. And if I do PSAUX on my Linux system, I'll see this PID running as well. And that needs to be done on a blue team side to make sure that they actually capture this kind of process ID setup. Yeah, so I ran it through a root access just because I want to. But usually whenever an attacker is doing this, they wouldn't be having root access. They would be having just a local lower user level access. The privilege is elevated obviously because it's root access. But this is just a simulation. The sleep timer is basically a 30-60 timer. Anything between the 30 to a 60 time, it's going to actually beacon back to the mothership, which is our host system, Linux. And the victim machine could be Windows, Linux, Mac, doesn't really matter. I'll show you how to do it. And the beaconing part is the super important part, because if you do the beaconing really quickly every 1 second, that's going to cause a problem because your intrusion detection systems will actually detect those and fire it back to the engineers who are actually handling it. And they will get to know that there is a third party which is coming in, and we don't have those kind of softwares or things communicating back to so-and-so server set up in freaking Russia or whatever. So why is this happening? Let's just hone down into it, and that way they can block. They should be blocking the entire network. The proxy which is coming in. But 30-60 timer is just a beacon timer. Make sure that you set it up correctly so that even at 120 seconds, it's actually doing beacon back, and your systems are actually detecting it on as a blue teamer. As a red teamer, you want to make sure that nobody detects you. So just make sure of that. Give a brief window of sleep timers. Your platform is Linux, which we already did it because it's on an Ubuntu system. The process ID is this. The principal process ID is this one over here. The executable name is test. I just run out of. I am really bad at naming my actual attacks, so I just do it test or hello or whatever. Once this is done, just hit save. You don't need to know this too much. Keep in mind if you wanted to access whatever I did, the entire menu, you can do that by clicking on the PID, which is green in color. The moment you run this, you will see this PID come up. It's automated. Next step is you're setting up your adversaries. Just click on add and then select whichever adversary you want to set up as. I have set up a bunch of them. Adversaries are basically attack vectors which are tied to the agent, and the kind of things, the instructions which you want to send. Let's say I want to find who the user is, and I want that to be done in an entire collection of adversaries. So my first job will be who am I? Who is the user? And if it comes up as root, I want that to be displayed into one of the fields, and then the next thing I want to know who are the local users. It'll display all the bunch of local users. That's exactly what I did. Identify active users will do who am I at the moment, and then find local users, identify local users, snag broadcast IP, yada 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 yada. You'll see all that how we develop it, but that's what adversary is. Abilities are whenever you add extra abilities from different kind of tactics, TPP tactics, procedures and protocols, things like that. Those are the MITRE framework which they have set up. It could be anything. It could be from execution. Choose a technique. They are all mapped to MITRE, so it will be handy whenever you're doing your reporting. And I'll show you the reporting part, which is the most fantastic part I've ever seen. It's so automated, but we'll get to that in a moment. Let's say you are doing a Windows system, Linux system, so I'll do the bash interpreter, and there are 3 abilities into it, and I want all of them to be uploaded to it. And once that is done, I just close it, and it's just gonna save it. Once that is done, everything will be set up, and it will add it basically to this actual catalog of adversaries and customize it. And you can add as many as you want. Just keep in mind that as the more you do it, the more time will it take for it to execute. But next up process is operations. So we had agents, we had adversaries. Now it's time for execution. You just select your agent as well as the adversary over here. You'll see that right over here, and then hit play. And once you do that, it's going to do actual things of attacking the entire system and gaining those things which it needs to be there. Whenever you see a yellow star, that means it has actually accepted and executed the command, and it has registered into your report. When I click on it, it says identify active user. That was the first ability, and it came out to be root. Now find me the local users. It'll give me a bunch of these show up. Whenever you see everything in yellow, that means it's been registered inside the system. Second of all, when it says find user processes, at the moment it's running MongoDB. That's what's happening. And find another user processes, same as MongoDB. PostgreSQL SQL, there's a config file which it detected. So it's going to detect all these stuff. One other way you can relate this to is whenever you saw my OSCP privilege escalation video, it should be there on YouTube, you will see something which I include is called privilege escalation scripts. What these scripts do is basically show you the actual thing which you need to attack on. Rather than wasting your time, you're actually attacking on certain things which will gain you the privileges. They are color coded, they look pretty, they look nice, they're meant to make sure that you attack only those things, because those are the most vulnerable things available. You can find those privilege escalation scripts right over here, and I'll tell you the reason why I'm doing this. NPS, yeah, because these scripts, oh man, I hate this. Updates. Privilege escalation, linpiece. This is just an example. This script actually, once you run it on a Linux machine, there is a Windows system as well. WinPiece, that's for Windows. Once you run it on a Windows or Linux machine, you will see that it will actually show you color coded on how things look like. If it is red and yellow, that means that that's the actual attack vector, and that's what you need to attack on. Similarly, right over here, it will show you that, oh yeah, there is a config file for PostgreSQL which you have access to, and you can change certain things to make sure you gain more privilege access. As a blue teamer, your job is to find these things which the red team has found and in the report, and then make sure you harden those things. That way, whenever an adversary actually does the same techniques, it won't be showing them that, oh yeah, this is so easy to enumerate, they haven't fixed it yet, let's just go and escalate the privilege to that. There is more to it. These are the other processes which are running as an ADHD, SSL encrypted for sure. But you see what I'm getting at is just a lot of processes, and there are other things which the system will run. And if it finds something interesting, it's going to highlight it as a star, which is yellow in color, which you need to take a look at. Next up is our compass. Once we have discovered all that stuff, we can make sure that we map it to our MITRE matrix so that we can present it. This is just for documentation purpose. We have already done the execution part. Documentation is the thing which actually gets you paid to do your job. You don't get paid to attack. You get paid to show the company that what exact issues has happened in their network while they were not paying attention. And if you do that really well, you could reach places, honestly. So what we have found is our discovery, which I've named it as discovery, is entirely of what we found earlier, and it's going to actually map it on how MITRE looks like and from where to where to where they went. So at this moment, since it's just discovery, it's going to do it in the discovery panel. There are four, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, one, two, three, four, five, six. Oh yeah, six attacks which were done to enumerate privileges for command and control. So it mapped it accordingly. You can do reverse of that. If you found online, let's say you found it on so-and-so website on how the attacker moved from one place to another, or you're smart enough, which doesn't take that much IQ, to figure out how the attacker moved from one place to another, let's say phishing attack or yada yada yada, you can go ahead and customize that framework right over here. Like, hey, they moved from phishing, they escalate the privileges to certain things, and you can upload those things right over here, and then that will just create the entire framework for you. You can select it as well, press shift and then select. These three things I've selected. Remove shift, give a score of, let's say, 100. It's gonna color itself, and then you can download it, and then you can upload it to the adversary right over here. Let's say I've done that recently. This is the test JSON layer 1. It's going to show you everything which is available, what are the TPP which was set up, and tactics, and you can go ahead and present that to your manager or whoever is responsible for you. Next up after that, what I did is I did a debrief session. This is pretty cool because it actually gives you a flowchart of how things look like. You can move this around and it's gonna dynamically change, so it makes things look better. You can actually start and it's gonna actually move from one spot to another. Good for presentation process, but once it is done, it's gonna stop. It's gonna tell you in detail what commands were run, so that whenever these kind of commands are run in an enterprise environment, the blue team can actually prevent it by running stops against it. So you cannot run PSAUX on so-and-so user level because they should not be having access to, let's say, help desk should be having access to run PSAUX. But if they are running NetStash user or something like that, which gives them access to an entire domain user base, that should not be there. That should never be showing up. But you can always pretend to show things over here, run the commands, and then make sure that the blue team is capable of preventing these things for every user except a few within the enterprise. So that's what the commands looks like. Also, it tells you the fact graph, which is my favorite. It's kind of like a chaos environment, but it will tell you literally everything what it found in the system, and then it will show you in this pretty looking chaos tab, which is kind of cool. Next up is access. Let's say that you don't want to run an entire environment, entire setup. You don't want to do an entire operation. You just want something really quickly. What you would do is you would select your agent right over here, select the abilities. Let's say I want to do exfiltration. Select the technique, automated exfil, and there's one ability. You just do that and you hit run. It's going to run that against that agent, run this attack against the agent, and then give you a result, similar to what we have seen before. I'm not going to run it because it takes a heck long of time. That's it. Once that is done, you can download these reports in JSON format for program or programmability, or just PDF if you want to show your managers. I've already done this for you. Looks pretty cool if you ask me, right over here. Very professional. It gives you everything in detail. What is the test which is done? Was there a cleanup? What is the planner? It says atomic. We'll explain that later as well. Don't worry about it. It's just a planner. And what is the name of the agent? What is the host, Linux, everything which is involved, the graphs and whatever is required into that. All the graphs which we were talking about earlier, it'll show up over here. Oh, this is the fun part, the tactics and techniques. This is what they care for. Actually, what are the tactics utilized, and then they'll talk. The blue purple team will talk to the blue team to see, hey, these are the techniques which are used and tactics. Do we have controls to prevent against these? And technically, you should be running Caldera on an entire environment once a year, but on certain control systems every so weeks, because software engineers, they try to develop things and they try to break stuff up. It's your job to make sure that they are doing everything in a controlled environment, as well as there is no access for things which they should not be giving access to. Because if they're coding as a root, yes, that's going to cause problem. If they are coding to make sure that the protocols are not followed correctly, yes, that's a problem which you need to fix as a cybersecurity engineer. So the commands which were used, if there are facts created, facts are nothing but hard-coded documentation which is created to make sure that you are following this again and again. Like, you can actually do this entire command again in a different operation, and if it still shows up as no, then yeah, it didn't get documented. A heckload of those. It's there. Let's see what else is there. Oh, the kind of things which were showing up, the directories, everything which is there, um, to check for passwords. Okay, that's what it was checking for. Let me see if etc is available. etc. No etc. Never mind. That's usually pretty famous. Anyways, that's your PDF. If you're doing an execution in your client side, you want to run this and then present this PDF to the people who are responsible so that they know what they're supposed to be looking at. With that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and cancel out of all these and kind of show you how to do it from scratch. Except the installation part, that stuff you need to take care of by yourself. And I'm pretty sure you're smart enough to install Caldera on any system which is provided. So where is my terminal? Yeah, let me just cut this clear. Go to the Caldera directory and then cancel this beacon. I hope you guys can see it. There we go. I'm gonna do the sudo python 3 server.py -- insecure. Hope it runs, but if you don't run it as sudo, that's perfectly fine. But it is gonna give you error messages. So in order for me to not cause any error messages, either I run my entire environment in sudo as a root user. Ugh. Stop Caldera. Great. And once that is set up, I just run python 3 server.py and then -- recursive. That's what it was. Let me just go check. Caldera. Oh, insecure. Yeah. I don't know. Why did I do recursive? Hope it doesn't give me an error message. Cool. Once you see all systems go, we can go ahead and go to our website. All systems ready. Brilliant. Cut this out. Restart Firefox. Come on, there we go. Localhost HTTP. Is it S? Oh, it's not S. Sorry. There we go. It's admin. That's the password and username. That's pretty standard. You can change that, and I'll show you how to change it before I move forward. It's important to change all this stuff. Oh no, it's on the desktop. You go to your Caldera, you go to config, you go to default. So if you don't do it through um, insecure, if you don't use insecure, then it's gonna start try to use the local.yaml, which is the file. But if you do insecure, it's just your default.yaml. And if you just scroll down in the bottom, there you have it, the red and blue team user credentials. You can access through both red and blue team, different tools for each one of these folks. So just feel contented that you can change it right over here, but I won't change because mine is read only at the moment. But just for sake of it, you can change it through the Caldera config default.yaml. Um, okay, moving forward, you will be presented with this beautiful screen. Just click on the navigations, click on agents. I want to cut this agent, come on. Here are the beacon timers. You can change this to whatever you want it. Now keep in mind there are two types of things. One, you'll see it over here. These you can change it the moment you hit save changes and you execute a new agent. It's gonna take in all those settings which you have just implemented right now. So let's say we do 3060 because I like it this way. Watchdog Timer, set up that. If you don't know what those things are, you can actually go ahead and then check for learn the terminology, and it's going to tell you Watchdog Timer once it is unreachable before killing an agent. So for some time, if there is no beaconing back, that means the blue team has done their job right, and they kill the agent, then it's your job to do cleanup really quickly. So if after certain seconds, if it doesn't beacon back to you, you go ahead and kill the session. The beacon timers is what we discussed earlier. The untrusted timer is basically whenever an agent is missing or untrusted, you just kill the agent. Implant name is just basically what you want it to name as. Let's say I want to name mine as YouTube session, no, Twitch session. Cool. Bootstrap abilities. And so bootstrap abilities are basically abilities which you can implement it. There is a certain ID which I'll show you where to look for, if I can find it, which you can copy paste it, and that ability will be utilized, only that one. So you can avoid all the other abilities to select. So it's a quick fix kind of thing. Let's see. It should be in data abilities. What? There we go. Yeah. No, not this, not this. I can always check to see where it exactly is. Static? No. Templates. Yeah. Caldera bootstrap abilities. Yeah. Okay. Comma separated abilities. Where do I find this though? No, it's just the same, but it's somewhere here on one of these folders, and I don't know where it is, but we'll definitely find it later. So the idea is that you strap an ability over here, and then once you hit save changes, it's gonna go ahead and execute that agent with these kind of settings which you have set up. So pretty customizable. I'm just gonna leave it at the normal stuff. Our agent is a Golang agent which communicates through HTTP. It's called Sandcat. 5.4 and AND is just different name for it. I will select our agent platform. I'll say Linux. That's fine. We can tell our agent name as Twitch. Copy this entire thing. Oh, cool. And paste it. Now once you paste it, it's basically going to run the entire agent into the host environment. This pasting of this agent can be done whenever attacker gets an actual environment shell. We are running this as root, obviously, but it can be run as a regular lower level shell as well. Exit. Oh god, great. I'm gonna go ahead and paste this. Hope it runs. This is the reason why I hate this. Sudo su dash. Cool. Beacon is alive. Once you hit beacon is alive, it will start showing up over here. It will know that our agent is elevated, obviously, because I did that. And executable name is Twitch, because we just changed it to Twitch. You don't want to kill the agent, but yeah, that's basically it. Next up is setting up adversaries. Adversary setup is pretty easy. This is in the view mode only. This is not in the add mode. Add mode will be this one, which you can start adding stuff. But in the view mode, you can basically see what exact things which are available, so you can execute that and attach it to your agent. Adversary setup is basically giving instructions to an agent to execute and then provide you an output which you will see in your operation. That's it. Let's see what we can do. Oh, just an FYI, when I set up an adversary and I saved it and uploaded it, it showed up over here. So it's whenever I save a layer, that just shows up into the adversary and keep building on it. So I can name it completely different. It's like, hey, this is day 1 of our Caldera execution, and then blue team did not detect this. So we'll say day 1 and so things not detectable. So these are the controls which were not triggered. I can name that as my layer, and then every time all I have to do is select that, and it will show up right over here just like this. I was playing around before, so that's what I saved it. But anyways, what we want is just basic discovery. We can do discovery. Let's see. Snag, broadcast IP, custom layer. No need custom layer. Collection. Well, I don't have any files on this VM, so doing for file services is kind of useless. But I want to show you what exactly it does. Terminal. Let's see, undercover. Ooh. Nah. All right, whatever. Just do discovery. It has a bunch of things which we can look for. Once you do that, you just hit save. It's gonna save that. You can always add more abilities into this whenever you're doing the view mode. But we don't want that. We want an add mode. So we'll just add adversaries, select the profile, discovery, add an adversary. It'll show up just like this. Now, when we jump into details, let's just click on any one of them. You'll see the the tactics, which is available over here, T1033. If you open up MITRE framework, you will see that you can map it based on just that. Discovery is nothing but who am I? If you don't know what that is, it's just basically Linux telling each other like, hey, who are you? And it will give them the result back like, hey, I am root, or I am so-and-so user. And then it will go deep dive into what access do they have. But this is for Darwin. Darwin is basically Mac. Anything Mac is Darwin. There's Linux, works in every Linux distro because it uses SH, which is bash. Same as Darwin, because they both are brothers and sisters. Windows use PowerShell to execute this. The command run is env username, and it will tell you, hey, this is the username. But we are not using Windows. It really doesn't matter. You can just let it be. Doesn't really matter. But what best thing you can do is you can set up payloads. Whenever you set up payloads, you just click on it, and then it's gonna actually implement that payloads whenever it's executing. We don't need any of those, so I'm just gonna get rid of those because I just want to show you how things work. Once whatever setup you want to set up, just hit save and then X out of it. These are the attacks which is going to do. Next up, what I'm going to go for is operation. That's the brains of the entire equation. You want to click on operations right over here. Select the operation. No, not this. Operation name as Twitch hack. Not hacking Twitch actually, but whatever. Select the groups which you wanted. At this moment we only have red. Select the discovery which you want to keep. You can always close this operation or keep it open forever for further enumeration or checking. I keep it running forever, run immediately. um, Autonomous mode, yes, always autonomous. Atomic planner is much detailed, so always choose that. As some for some reason it's much works better. Use basic facts, that's fine. Stealth mode, if you want these things to talk to each other in a different kind of encryption, you can go ahead and do that with base 64 hash and things like that. You can go ahead and set that up. I'll just select plain text at the moment, and the schedule, you can schedule it any day, 5 6 days in a day, or 5 6 times in a day, or 5 6 times in a month, depending on what your budget is. And then hit on schedule. We don't need that, so you hit start. It's gonna start identifying and doing its thing. This is actually I'll do the include agent output. I'm gonna make sure that this is running. The moment it is running like this, that means that it has started. um, it will update automatically. You don't need to hit refresh. Do not hit refresh, else all this setup which you have done will go away. It's still saved and it's still running, but the display will go away. You have to bring it up again. But just keep it running. You don't have to do anything. Just monitor the decisions, how many of them are done. um, Check on these stars. It's like, hey, there's a MongoDB. So I'm running the same thing again, so just keep that in mind. If you see the root, who am I root, that's the first attack which we wanted to do. Find me all the people who are running on this system, and yada yada yada. So that is running on its own. Our next step should be just to make sure that we can set that up in a compass. Debrief will be just not yet set up because it's still building on it. Every single time it builds on it, it's going to add an actual thumbprint right over here, and then you can check it out by downloading a report once it is done. You don't need it right now. It's still halfway done. Go up, set up your game board. So game board is pretty fun. It's kind of like a cool thing which red and blue team does. I'll select the red team. We won 14 points. These are things which we found in the environment. Hey, blue team did not do certain things for detection, so keep refreshing it. It keeps building it up. Kind of like a cool thing, but very, very competitive. Compass is just MITRE framework. You can go ahead and select the adversary which you set up, discovery, and it will generate a layer of all the things which is there in discovery. Let's see. Yeah, you can save that up, or you can go ahead and where did that go? Open existing layer. Yeah, you can upload the layer from your Windows, your machine, or you can use a URL to find it. Both of them work just fine. It's going to display the actual MITRE framework setup and what are the places where they touched based on once the attack is finished. One way to save that JSON file is right through here. You can do the debrief JSON file as well, but this is the report which you wanted to download. It will download as layer, if not PDF. Shoot, does it even work unless it's done completely? Oh, whatever. I'll just download the JSON right over here. This debrief, you can go ahead and bring it up on MITRE framework and it'll work just fine, hopefully. But I've already explained how this thing works, so you can go ahead and set it up by however you want it. You can also upload the adversary if you have tested it out in the past and then wanted to recheck. You can upload your previous engagement adversary setup on how it is set up, and then go ahead and open up a new tab and then download, run this entire layer again with the current execution of the operation, and then match which one of them were actually detected, if there was a new technique which Caldera thought about it himself, and then how can you mitigate that risk. Once that is set up, you always have other things to look at. Now it's just basic documenting type. There's nothing different in it. We already did, let's see, access. What is access to? Oh yeah, this was the last one. Like, you're being lazy, you don't want anything else set up, You just want just discovery to be running by itself. Just select the technique, and all the abilities which is available, and hit run. It's gonna do it on its own on the side. You can set it up like 50 different types of it, and it's gonna start running on the side. No problems. It's gonna work just fine. So that's just access for you. The success detected, and then you can go ahead and check that up. Like, oh yeah, who am I root? That was easy. And this one worked as well. Who am I root? Same thing. But yeah, that's your thing. That's Caldera for you. I think I did it in 45 minutes. That's a new record for me. Explain the thing in 45 minutes. But yes, I want you to go ahead and play with this tool. Try to learn everything what you can. One way I master a tool or a technique or something new is reading the manual, because the folks who created the tool, anything which they create, they try to make it as detailed as possible for anyone to be a master in it. And that's what I aim for, to be a master at anything which I touch. And nobody can beat me into that. So that's what I did. I just read through Caldera's actual wiki, read every single word of it, and then decided to do it by myself, and I succeeded. I didn't have to do the training as well. So you can actually do a CTF training right over here, the user certificate. It will go through every single thing which we discussed. You don't need to memorize anything. If you just do the CTF, you should be fine on setting up everything from agents, adversaries, operations, advanced, using the tool Manex, Mock, Compass, which we already did, Response, Game Board, which we already did, and the Atomic board. So that is there. The CTF is pretty awesome. Try to do that. I don't see a lot of people doing that, but once I finished it, once you actually restart the computer and you reinstall Caldera, the CTF training goes out. So it's challenging, but make sure you document all the CTF answers, so it's beneficial for anyone else who looking into it. But read the manual, install this tool, memorize how you would do an entire operation autonomously, and how you would make sure that your reports look as customizable as possible. If you know all these things and you get an opportunity to luckily work at a red team, you are game. You would dominate places where you don't know you could reach. So just check into that. I'm sure you're gonna do great. Just make sure that you follow the tools by step, and then only look for customizing it. Building your own plugins, building your own planners. I'm pretty sure like a ton of plugins are available for Caldera because it's that famous. You can build your own agents however you want it. You don't have to use the basic C2 environment. You can build any agent which you want. You will like PHP setup? Great. Build a PHP environment, because most of your apps are using some sort of PHP setup, and you want to make sure that that is not vulnerable to an outside agent. You build your own agent in PHP. It's dead easy. The entire skeleton is set up right over here. There we go. You set up an entire plugin. Once that is done, you can go ahead and upload it to your Caldera, run it against your blue team controls, and then see if it detects. Like this, you can build a lot of agents and a lot of plugins for your environment the way you want it. But yeah, that's just basically it. That's Caldera in a nutshell for you. Moving forward, I'm going to create an entire course on Caldera red and blue attack systems, where we're going to set up an entire blue team Windows machine and then set up triggers into it, alarms. Once we run this Caldera matrix against it, it's going to go ahead and pop up logs, and we want to make sure that those logs needs to be pop up. I'm still in the process of building a sim. I'm a big VM guy, so I'm trying to build a sim and install all the apps which is really necessary tools for showing you how to do this. But that's a later course in the time. But meanwhile, just try to master this as much as you can. I'm pretty sure you're going to do great. Well, with that being said, if you have any questions, I'll entertain that for the next 5 minutes. If not, you can just hop off the chat. That's perfectly fine. No hard feelings. That is pretty cool. 45 minutes. Didn't expect that. Any questions, concerns, issues, criticisms? All are welcome, no judgment. If you're wondering what Nexus InfoSec is, that's my company, and I run it. We do pen test for other small companies and provide them with a state-of-the-art reporting environment so that they can be rest assured they don't get hacked. That's my elevator pitch. Yeah, if you want to check my website out, that's just Nexus InfoSec. Should be up and running last time I checked. Yeah, there we go. All set up right. Yeah, just check into that. If you want to hire me for a pen test, I'm very happy to do that. We go above and beyond into our work. We also set up honeypots, really big on that part. Set up honeypots and do vulnerability assessments. We also do physical pen testing, which is pretty brand new to most folks, but it's supposed to be there so that not a lot of people should have access to places where they should not be having access to. So that's what we do. Try to break into your stuff, show you where you're vulnerable so you don't have another breach or attack. Any more questions? Got like 4 more minutes left. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that I have compiled a list of word lists for the first name and the last name of the Facebook hack. Me and my buddy Sunny S from LinkedIn, you can just check him out right over here. We did this Facebook, we downloaded the entire Facebook repo, and then we made sure that we use certain Linux command to sort the word list. It was a lot of junk, but we sorted it out and made a word list for just the names, the first name, and then the last name. You can very well compile that into an actual word list. I'm hoping that SecList implements this into their word list, which you can download for anyone, but that's just another story for another day. But that's just available for anyone to download, just Facebook-leak-word list. You can just go ahead and download that and then or fork it. That's perfectly fine. And then use it in your word list in your name generator, first name dot last name, or first name last name, or emails. Emails are pretty famous. First name dot last name at soandsocompany.com. That's an email. If that doesn't work, try first name last name at soandso.com. It's usually that there's a dot. That's it. They don't use a dash. They don't use underscore. They just use dot. For some reason, it's easier for people to remember dots than underscores. But yeah, you have it. There you go. You can start building emails and then try to brute force that. Use that emails to brute force into companies' domains. But oh yeah, just an FYI, everything is for educational purpose. Yada yada yada. I'm not responsible for anything which you do, so don't sue me. Basically it. 2 more minutes, folks. Any more questions? If not, we should be good to go. With that, I would say thank you so much for attending, and I hope to see you in my next stream. To all the 3 people who attended this stream, thank you so much for donating your time. I hope you learned something new, and I'm so glad that I got to train 3 people in my stream, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get more people and comments in my YouTube video once I upload this to YouTube. That's usually a lot of people in different time zones attracting towards those videos. So nothing there. We can go ahead and close the stream. Thank you so much for attending. I hope to see you in the new one.